Hey guys, and welcome! With the first update of this year that we can expect at the end of January, DICE will bring back a class system to the game. Not a full one, and specialists will also still stay in the game, but it's a partial one with a few restrictions and changes. And since it's not long until the update now, I just had another look at all the details we already got about it and found some points that I think could be an issue and might not make the system to the success DICE is hoping for. And the first question is, will it really improve team play? Because that's one reason for the classes to return. DICE wants to add more structure to the battlefield, so it might be easier for players to know and fulfill their roles, but they also want to encourage more team play, so everyone has to rely on each other instead of being a one-man army. And while I agree that it might add a little more structure and force people to help each other, I doubt that it will really improve team play, because unlike former titles of the series, Battlefield 2042 is built around specialists with an open system of weapons and gadgets that makes it possible to play more individual and independent from each other. And only restricting a few gadgets won't bring back the same gameplay and team play feeling as a full class system. And here's where the next question pops up: does the game even need a class system? Because right from the start, Battlefield 2042 was advertised with the specialists with their abilities and with a completely open system. So players knew what they would have to expect, at least when it comes to this, and most players that have stuck to the game up until now enjoy the open system, at least for this one title of the series. And when the first news about the reintroduction of a class system came up, the overall feedback to it was not the best. What surprised me a little bit back then, to be honest, but at least in the comment section of my channel, most players explained that they like the open system and that they got used to it by now and don't really want to have this changed. But then again, when DICE started to work on the system, the player count of the game was extremely low and they probably thought they have to do something to bring people back. So I can understand that they wanted to try something and also wanted to please some players that have only left the franchise or the game because they didn't get along with the open system. The only problem here is, will people really come back because the game receives a partial class system? Because from what I've seen, most of the players who are complaining about the absence of classes also don't like the specialists and their abilities, but these will still be in the game, even with the classes. So there might be more structure added and maybe we will also see an increase in team play, but the people who abandoned the game because of the specialists will still not like it because of the specialists. So I doubt that the system will bring back players on a larger scale. I mean, I'm happy about every player who discovers the game or returns to it and keeps playing. And a new system with new features also means there's a lot to explain for me and do content about it. But still, I'm not quite sure if the resources DICE puts into developing and fine-tuning the class system right now would be at better use for some more content like maps or even another specialist. And that also brings me to the next point: do all of the specialists with their unique abilities even fit into the classes in the way we were used to it in former titles? Because even though some abilities fit very well, others start to overlap and won't always fit perfectly into the boundaries of their respective class. And I know the devs are working hard on this and try their best to balance it out, but even after the last update we got about the system, where we learned that Crawford and Irish have switched places, there's still two others that I think are not a good fit at the moment, and that's Boris and Rao. Because right now Boris is part of the engineer class but has actually nothing to do with it when it comes to his active and passive abilities, while Rao does. The description of the engineer class says it is centered around aiding and fighting vehicles, and Boris doesn't have anything to aid or fight vehicles. His turret only deals damage to infantry and his trait is focused on increasing the efficiency of the turret. Rao, on the other hand, who is part of the recon class at the moment, has the ability to hack and disable enemy vehicles and with this make them vulnerable for attacks. So wouldn't that be a much better fit for an engineer? Besides this, being in the engineer class would also allow Rao to still have access to the FXM missile launcher or the Recalless M5 to efficiently counter air and ground vehicles. And I know that this combination is played a lot. Boris' turret, on the other hand, also spots and automatically shoots at enemies on a range of 50 meters, so maybe he would be better in the recon class. I know that both would still not be the perfect fit, but at least a bit better than it is right now. So like I said, there are only a few specialists that really fit perfectly into their respective classes, while most are overlapping with others. But maybe DICE should take another look at this and consider some additional tweaks. Same for the class gadgets. The open pool of gadgets and throwables we have right now will be restricted and parted into open and class gadgets. And the class gadget will be exclusive to a specific class and will always be equipped, so you can't change it, and also none of the other classes will have access to it. In general, I think that the choice of these gadgets is pretty okay so far, with the Assault carrying the Med Pen as they are more likely to receive high amount of damage, the Engineer having the repair tool to help allied vehicles stay alive longer, and the support class with the defibrillator for obvious reasons. But what I don't really agree with is the insertion beacon as class gadget for the recon, cause that means that no one besides the 3 recon specialists and the 4th we will get next season would be able to equip the beacon. And only from the experience of former titles, recons are mostly used to stay in 2nd or 3rd line or even at the edge of the map, and that means that the insertion beacon might also only be used further away from the actual objectives or at the edge of the map. Right now the beacon is not a gadget that is used a lot, so I agree that it would surely see a lot more use with it being a class gadget, but in which places of the map? Except for Pike, none of the current recons is actually equipped for the thick of the battle. Rao, like I already said, is perfect for countering vehicles, and Casper with his drone is mostly immobile and works pretty well as an insertion beacon himself, so I don't really see a benefit in this class having an exclusive access to the beacon. The Assault class, on the other hand, with Sundance and McKay, could use this gadget a lot better, since they have the abilities to place it in locations behind enemy lines or on high ground, so somewhere where a whole squad could deploy close to an objective and get back into the fight. I wouldn't make it a class gadget, of course, since I think the Med Pen is a pretty good fit for the Assault. Instead, I would keep the insertion beacon open either for all classes or maybe 2 of them, the Assault and Support class for example, and give the Recon to proc sensor as class gadget instead. This will be removed from the throwables anyhow and would only be accessible to the Recon class as gadget, so why not turn it into their class gadget? It might also encourage them to play more around the objective and help their teammates with spottings instead of being further away, and it would also not turn into a proc sensor spam since the class gadgets have to be resupplied like any other one, so I don't see any problems here. And in addition to these little tweaks to the class gadget, I would also love to see some changes to the pool of open gadgets. If you can't remember exactly which ones every class has, no worries, here's the list again. And first of all, I don't think the Assault class should have the armor plates. I actually think they shouldn't be in the game at all, but if a class needs to have them, it should be the Support, simply because they are the ones running around under enemy fire trying to keep their teammates alive, and with the armor plates it might make it a bit easier for them. As a replacement for the plates, I would then give the Assault class the AT mines, cause they have a lot better abilities to get to vehicles and sneak up to them than the Engineer class has. Engineers, on the other hand, would then have all the gadgets that can be used to attack vehicles from distance, which is a great fit in my opinion, and in exchange for the armor plates, the Support class would then lose the Claymore, and when doing this I would also take it away from the Recon class. For the Assault, I think it's okay, and it will also be the only class with access to this gadget, so it might not get too annoying on the battlefield, but if several classes have it, it would probably encourage camping too much, and especially the Support class should be more encouraged to take helpful gadgets with them, like the med or ammo crates, or something to protect themselves like the armor plates, but not a Claymore. So this is what the full pool of gadgets would look like with the changes I've suggested. The Assault class would have access to the Smoke Launcher, AT Mines, C5 Explosives, the Claymore and maybe the Insertion Beacon. The Engineers would have the Recoilless M5, FXM Missile Launcher, Javelin and EOD Bot. The Support class, the Ammo and Medical Crates, the Smoke Launcher and the Armor Plates. And the Recon class would have the Tox, the Tracer Dart, C5 Explosives and the Soflam. So players would still be encouraged to work together and help each other, but the single specialists would also still be able to play the role of the classes on the battlefield. Like I already mentioned, DICE also made some slight restrictions to the throwables, so the proc sensor was removed completely from this pool, the concussion grenades are now limited to the Assault class, while the EMPs are limited to every other class. And while there's not much harm in doing this, I don't think it's really necessary. To me this feels more like a forced restriction to make it look like there was a change made, but I would keep the remaining throwables open, cause the EMP grenades can be really useful for the Assault class as well, while other classes can also benefit from the concussion grenades. We also never really had any issues with spam of these two kind of throwables, so I don't think this restriction really makes much sense. And then at the end, there are the planned weapon proficiencies that will be added instead of restricting the access to weapons, and there are a few things that might become a problem, but these proficiencies might also have been redesigned already, at least when we believe Temporal and his latest data mining. Cause with the last update we received from DICE, the proficiencies were as follows. The Assault class has a faster sprint to fire speed when using assault rifles, the Support class has an additional magazine and is more accurate on the bipod with LMGs, the Engineers have fast reload on all utility weapons, and Recon class can hold breath faster and longer when aiming down sights with a sniper rifle. And the only thing I agree with is the one for the Recon class, cause it's not overpowered and totally makes sense. The rest of the proficiencies on the other hand seems pretty unbalanced to me. Everyone who's playing McKay, for example, would have a massive advantage in any gunfight because of his trait Nimble that already allows him to strafe faster when aiming down sights, and the combination of this with the fast sprint to fire speed. Then the Engineers, who would get a benefit with a weapon class where there are only about 2 really useful weapons in there. And the Support class, who is able to resupply itself, would receive more magazines for a weapon class that already has the largest magazines, and in addition gets encouraged to lie prone or be immobile with a bipod deployed. So to me this is against everything these classes are supposed to do on the battlefield. And my suggested changes that I also gave as feedback to the developers back then are to give the Engineers a benefit with LMGs instead, cause these guys are the ones with the heavy firepower in general, give the Support class a proficiency for SMGs, cause that would allow them to be in the thick of the battle to keep teammates alive and also react with fast firing weapons, and for the love of God, find something else for the Assault class. Maybe a faster reload speed, maybe a higher ammo capacity, but not a higher sprint to fire speed. And just yesterday, Temporal posted a list with reworked proficiencies that he had found in the latest game files, and I was really surprised to see some of the changes I had suggested. So it looks like the Assault class will get additional ammunition when using assault rifles, the Support class will have faster draw time when using SMGs, the Engineers will have improved accuracy with LMGs when prone or crouching, and the Recon class will have immediate and constant steady scope on sniper rifles. Still not perfect, but it's a step into the right direction, if it's even true, but there's also still time for them to do some fine-tuning on this. The proficiencies themselves are definitely a good solution and much better than a restriction of weapons, and maybe we will get another official update on all of this soon. I personally like the completely open system of Battlefield 2042 as well, since it fits the scenario and setting of the game, but DICE has the reason to bring back a class system, and I hope they will also find a good balance for it. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to drop a like and a comment below, and also feel free to write your thoughts and ideas for the class system as well. And if you haven't done yet, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more content like this. Until then, thanks for watching. I'm the Catwoman and you are awesome.